At Christmas dinner, my dad James got exposed for manipulating family over money. The humiliation was unforgettable. So this happened last Christmas, and honestly, I still can't shake the tension from that night. Every time someone in my family mentions holiday dinner, I get a pit in my stomach. My dad, James, is only 35, which is kinda young compared to most of my friends' parents. He's always been the cool dad type, charismatic, funny, knows how to work a room. But what people don't see is how much he's always chasing money. Not in a hustler, grind-set way, but in this weird manipulative way where he leans on family, borrows, invests, and somehow convinces people to trust him only to never fully follow through. We were all at my grandma's house for Christmas dinner. She goes all out, roast turkey, mashed potatoes, green bean casserole, the works. The table was crammed with family, my dad James, my stepmom Amanda, my grandma, my aunt Lisa, my uncle Mark, and me. The room smelled like cinnamon candles and baked ham, and for a moment it actually felt cosy. Until my dad brought up business opportunities. I swear, the man cannot eat one plate of food without pitching someone. He cleared his throat, lifted his glass of wine, and went, "Look, I know it's the holidays, but I wouldn't be me if I didn't share what I've been working on. This could change our family's future." Amanda tried to whisper, "James, not now," but he brushed her off. My grandma smiled politely, but I could see her shoulders tense. Aunt Lisa sighed, already knowing where this was going. Uncle Mark muttered, "Here we go again." Dad leaned forward, lowering his voice like he was about to reveal state secrets. "I've been in talks with a buddy of mine about this new property investment. If we pull together just a little from each of us, we could flip this place and triple our money in 6 months." I wanted to crawl under the table. Grandma, being the sweet woman she is, said carefully, "James, honey, maybe this isn't the time." But Dad doubled down. "No, Mom, this is exactly the time. We're all here, we're family. Who better to support each other?" That's when Aunt Lisa slammed her fork down. "Support, James. Do you remember the car rental business you pitched 3 years ago? Or the crypto mining last Easter? How much money have you actually paid back?" The whole table went silent. My dad's face died, but he kept smiling like he was unfazed. Amanda looked like she wanted to disappear. Then Grandma, who never raises her voice, said softly, "James, you still owe me $8,000. Don't you think it's time you paid me back before asking for more?" My dad froze. His charm slipped for the first time, and the room got heavy. That's when the humiliation really started, because the rest of the family wasn't about to stay quiet anymore. The silence after Grandma's words was suffocating. You could hear the clock ticking in the living room and the faint hum of Christmas music from the TV in the background. My dad's smile faltered, and he quickly tried to laugh it off. "Mom, come on, that was years ago. You know things have been tight, but I've always planned to make it right." Aunt Lisa didn't miss a beat. "Planned, James. You always plan. You never deliver. You take money from Mom, from me, even from Mark, and then spin some story about how the next thing will be different. Meanwhile, you're driving around in a new truck and going on business trips to Vegas." Uncle Mark, who's usually the laid-back one, leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. "I told myself I'd stay out of this tonight, but Lisa's right. I gave you $5,000 2 years ago, James. I never saw a dime back. You said it was for marketing your startup. Turns out it was just paying off your credit card bill." Amanda, my stepmom, looked like she wanted the floor to swallow her. She muttered under her breath, "Not this again," but my dad heard and snapped, "Amanda, whose side are you on?" The table collectively gasped. Even Grandma's jaw dropped. Amanda straightened up, cheeks flushed. "Don't you dare put me in the middle of this, James. I've been covering bills, making excuses, and watching you charm your way into everyone's wallets. Do you think I enjoy being the one who has to answer the phone when collectors call?" At that point, I couldn't stay quiet. My heart was pounding, but I blurted out, "Dad, they're right. You've been promising us all for as long as I can remember. Every holiday turns into some pitch, and honestly, it feels like you see us as investors, not family." My dad whipped his head toward me, eyes wide like I just stabbed him in the back. "You too? My own kid?" I nodded, my throat dry. "Yeah, me too." That broke something in him. He pushed his chair back so hard it screeched against the hardwood. "You all act like I am some villain. Do you have any idea how hard I'm working? How much I've sacrificed? I'm trying to build something for this family, but all I get is criticism." Grandma's voice cracked as she said, "James, you're not building for the family, you're taking from the family." And just like that, the dam broke. Lisa started listing every time he borrowed and never paid back. Mark chimed in with receipts. Amanda admitted she had to pawn jewelry to cover a business debt he had promised would be temporary. The whole dinner turned into a courtroom with Dad in the defendant's chair. I sat there, my food had touched my chest tight. It felt less like a holiday dinner and more like an intervention that had been years in the making. And then my dad, red-faced and cornered, said something that made the entire room explode. That words hung in the air like a punch. "If you all think I'm just some leech, fine, maybe I don't need this family anyway." For a moment, everyone froze. The room, filled moments ago with the smells of turkey and cinnamon, now felt cold and heavy. Grandma's hands trembled as she set down her fork. Aunt Lisa's face went pale, but her jaw was clenched. Amanda looked like she was about to burst into tears. And me? I felt my stomach drop like the ground beneath me was gone. Mark finally spoke, his voice quiet but sharp. "You think cutting us off will make us feel sorry for you, James? We're calling out years of manipulation. This isn't about money, it's about respect and honesty." Dad slammed his fist on the table. Silverware clattered. I flinched. "You don't get it. You all think I'm greedy, but I'm trying to secure your future so you don't understand what it's like to be me." Amanda's voice cracked, but she didn't back down. "Secure our futures by draining everyone around you, by turning family gatherings into your personal fundraising events. That's not securing futures, that's exploiting us, James." Grandma's eyes glistened. "I raised you better than this. I trusted you, and you took advantage of that trust." I wanted to say something, anything to stop the spiral, but my throat was tight. Instead, I watched as the tension escalated. Dad's face twisted between anger and shame, his usual charm completely gone. He got up, pacing behind the table like a caged animal. "I didn't realize how much it hurt you all. I thought I was helping. I thought I was—" He trailed off, shaking his head. The bravado that usually shielded him cracked, revealing vulnerability. "I thought I was building something we could all benefit from." Lisa, finally letting herself breathe, said softly, "James, building something is fine, but not when it comes at the cost of trust and relationships. You can't just ask for money and charm your way through. That's not family, that's a scam." For the first time, Dad looked genuinely ashamed. He sank into his chair, resting his head in his hands. Amanda sat beside him, cautiously placing a hand on his shoulder. Grandma just shook her head slowly. I felt a mixture of relief and lingering anger. Relief because the confrontation had finally come, and anger because the tension of years had boiled over in one dinner. We sat in silence for a few moments, the only sound being the faint hum of the Christmas tree lights and the occasional sniffle. Then Dad muttered, almost to himself, I guess I need to make this right. I don't want to lose you all over money. Mark let out a long sigh. Actions, not words, Dad. Show us you mean it. Amanda nodded, tears in her eyes. Start paying back. Be honest, and stop using us as your bank. That's the first step. Grandma quietly added, and no more pictures at the dinner table. Dad swallowed hard, nodding. The room was tense, but for the first time in years, it felt like maybe there was a chance to rebuild. I looked around the table, realizing that this was a turning point. Painful, awkward, and messy, but maybe, just maybe, a turning point. The next few days were awkward, to say the least. Dad barely ate anything at breakfast, and when he did, it was silent, as if every bite reminded him of the Christmas confrontation. Amanda was tense but supportive, making sure he had reminders about payments he needed to make to Grandma, Aunt Lisa, and Uncle Mark. I kept replaying the scene in my head. The look on Dad's face when Grandma mentioned the $8,000 he owed her, it was a mix of shock, guilt, and fear I'd never seen before. And honestly, part of me felt sad for him. He wasn't evil, he was flawed, and that flaw had cost him the trust of the people he loved the most. By midweek, Dad asked to speak with me alone. We sat in the living room, the leftover Christmas decorations still up, the faint scent of pine hanging in the air. Hey, can we talk? He asked, voice low. I nodded. Sure, Dad. About the dinner? He rubbed his face. Yeah, about that. I know I messed up. I didn't see how badly I was taking advantage of everyone. I thought I was helping, but I can see now I was hurting instead. I hesitated, but decided to be honest. It's not just about the money, Dad. It's about respect, about knowing when to stop. You can't make us investors in every idea you have. That's not what family is. He nodded slowly. I know I'm going to fix this. I've already started figuring out a plan to pay everyone back, starting with Grandma. I want to rebuild trust. I don't want to be the guy everyone dreads holiday dinners for. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. That's a start, but it's going to take time. Just don't pitch anything for a while, okay? He chuckled faintly, almost sheepishly. Yeah, no more pitches, promise. Later that week, Dad called Aunt Lisa and Uncle Mark individually. He made payment arrangements, apologized sincerely, and admitted where he went wrong. Amanda stayed on top of things, making sure he followed through. It wasn't perfect, and there were still tense moments, but for the first time in years, it felt like he was taking responsibility. By the time New Year's rolled around, Dad seemed lighter. He wasn't constantly scheming or calculating. He laughed more genuinely, even helped me untangle the Christmas lights left over from the previous week. Amanda smiled more freely around him. Even Grandma, though still cautious, started letting him help in small ways around the house. I realized that confrontation, painful as it was, had forced him to face reality. He had a choice, keep manipulating and exploiting, or actually be a father, a husband, a son, and a brother. And for the first time in a long while, it felt like he was choosing the latter. I'm not saying everything is perfect. There are still conversations about money, still reminders about past mistakes. But there's also a sense of accountability and our hope that maybe our family dinners can be about love, not stress, manipulation, or financial pressure. And honestly, that's a Christmas miracle I didn't think we'd ever get. The following holidays were interesting, to say the least. Dad seemed determined to change, and the tension from last Christmas still lingered like a shadow in the corners of the room. Every time he started talking about business or opportunities, someone, usually Amanda or Aunt Lisa, gave him a wary look, and he'd immediately shut down, almost apologetically. During Easter, we all gathered at Grandma's again. The table was small this time, just Dad, Amanda, Grandma, Lisa, Mark, and me. The smell of baked ham and fresh flowers filled the air, and for a moment I actually felt relaxed. Dad tried to break the ice. I promise no money talk today, just eggs, food, and bad jokes. We laughed. Tentatively, it felt almost normal. But old habits die hard. A few hours later, while helping Amanda carry dessert plates, I overheard him whisper to Grandma, maybe we should think about investing in that property next month. I froze. Before I could say anything, Grandma held up a hand. James, not today. We talked about this. Today is about family. He nodded, swallowing hard, and I could see the effort it took to resist. It was almost humbling. He wanted to talk about money but forced himself to focus on family instead. After dinner, we all played games and shared stories. Dad joined in fully, laughing, teasing me lightly for losing at charades, helping Amanda clean up. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like he was using the holiday as a stage for manipulation. Over the next few months, he followed through on his promises. Small payments went to Grandma and Aunt Lisa. He even set up a spreadsheet for himself to track debts and repayment plans. It wasn't flashy or perfect, but it was proof he was taking accountability seriously. I noticed subtle changes too. Dad seemed less desperate to prove himself, less anxious about everyone thinking he was successful. He started asking how people were doing, really asking, and listened instead of immediately turning the conversation to his plans. Amanda often whispered to me, it's still a tightrope, one wrong step and he could revert. But I could see the pride in her eyes. She'd been pushing for this accountability for years, and finally, it looked like progress. By the next summer, Dad even hosted a small backyard barbecue. No financial pitches, no schemes. Just burgers, laughter, and family. Grandma smiled more freely, Lisa and Mark teased him mercilessly, and Amanda relaxed. Even I found myself enjoying his company without the underlying stress. It wasn't perfect, and I knew that one step could unravel everything. But for the first time in years, I saw Dad making a conscious effort to not for appearances, not for charm, but because he genuinely wanted to repair the relationships he'd damaged. And honestly, watching him struggle and grow, I felt something I hadn't felt in years: hope. Hope that a father who once prioritized money over family could learn, adapt, and maybe, just maybe, truly put his loved ones first. By the following Thanksgiving, it felt like the tension from the first Christmas had mostly eased, but there were still subtle reminders of the past. Dad knew that any slip could undo months of progress, so he was careful. Every interaction was measured, sincere, and noticeably less self-serving. We arrived at Grandma's early, and I noticed Dad already helping in the kitchen, chopping vegetables and humming quietly to himself. Amanda was at his side, directing him on which dishes needed final touches. Even Grandma, who normally fussed over every detail, gave him a small approving nod. It wasn't overt praise, it was cautious, but it was progress. The dinner table, now a mix of old family traditions and a few new faces, felt lighter. Dad was telling a story about a ridiculous fishing trip he'd taken last summer, and this time, no financial advice, no schemes, just laughter. Lisa leaned over to whisper, "I can't believe he's actually funny without trying to sell us something." But the real test came after dessert. Dad cleared his throat and said, "I just want to say I know last year's holidays were rough. I was not the dad I should have been. I made mistakes, big ones, and I've been trying to make it right." Grandma's eyes softened, though she still looked worried. "It's been a start, James. Keep it up." Dad nodded, swallowing hard. "I will. I paid back what I owed, and I'm keeping track of everything. No more borrowing without returning. No more turning family gatherings into my business pitch. That's a promise." Mark, ever the skeptic, raised an eyebrow. "Words are good. Actions matter more." "I know," Dad said earnestly. "And that's what I'm working on. I don't want to lose this family over money or manipulation. I want to be trusted again, and I'll learn that, step by step." Amanda smiled, resting her hand on his shoulder. "It's a start, James. Just keep proving it." Even Lisa, who had been harshest during the confrontation, let out a small laugh. "Guess we're seeing some progress. Don't screw it up." I watched him, my dad, sitting there, humbled, sincere, and willing to face the consequences of his past behavior. It was almost surreal. He wasn't perfect. He probably never would be. But he was truly trying to repair the damage he had done. That night, as we all helped clean up, I realized how much had changed in just a year. Dinner was no longer a minefield of tension and fear. It had become a chance for connection, awkward apologies, and laughter. Dad's financial pitches and manipulative charm had been replaced with accountability and effort. As we left Grandma's house that night, I glanced at Dad. He caught my eye, gave a small nod, and for the first time in a long time, I felt a genuine sense of relief. It was still fragile, but our family's foundation, trust, respect, and honesty was being rebuilt, brick by brick. And for a family that had spent years tiptoeing around finances and broken promises, that was a miracle in itself. A year after that disastrous Christmas, things had changed in ways I never thought possible. Dad was still James, the same charismatic, funny man, but now he carried a sense of responsibility that had been missing for so long. The holidays weren't a minefield of tension or fear anymore. They were moments of connection, laughter, and even genuine pride. The latest holiday dinner took place at our house this time. Dad and Amanda had taken over most of the preparations, determined to create a stress-free environment. The table was filled with familiar smells, roast turkey, candied yams, cranberry sauce that actually tasted homemade. Grandma had arrived with her usual cautious smile, and Aunt Lisa and Uncle Mark were teasing each other as they always did, the atmosphere light and almost normal. Dad, unusually relaxed, was flipping rolls in the oven while chatting with me. "Remember last year? I can't believe I almost turned the kitchen into a courtroom." He joked, and I couldn't help but laugh. It was a small thing, but it felt like proof that the tension that had haunted our holidays was loosening. Dinner began, and this time, no one brought up money or investments. Dad was fully present, asking how everyone's projects were going, listening instead of pitching. Amanda whispered, "See, he's really trying," and I nodded. I could tell she was just as relieved as I was. After the meal, Dad quietly pulled me aside. "I just want to say thanks for being honest, for not letting me slide back into my old ways. I know it hasn't been easy, and I've hurt a lot of people. I'm sorry." I looked at him and saw sincerity in his eyes. "It's not easy, Dad, but you're making it right. That's what matters." Grandma chimed in from the living room. "Actions speak louder than words, James. Keep proving it." And he had. Over the past year, Dad had made consistent payments, apologized sincerely to anyone he'd wronged, and even sought guidance on managing money responsibly. He didn't talk about opportunities at every family gathering anymore. He listened, shared, and genuinely engaged with the family. Even Aunt Lisa admitted with a smirk, "I never thought I'd say this, but I'm actually looking forward to next holiday." Mark nodded in agreement, shaking his head with a reluctant smile. I realized, in that moment, that the family's dynamic had shifted. Dad's financial manipulation had once created distrust and resentment, but the confrontation and his subsequent efforts had sparked a change. There was hope now, a fragile but growing trust that felt stronger than it had in years. As the night drew to a close, we gathered for a group photo. Dad put his arms around Amanda and me, smiling genuinely. No hidden agenda, no manipulation. Grandma, Aunt Lisa, and Mark joined, and for the first time in a long while, the picture captured a family that had weathered storms and come out stronger. I knew things wouldn't always be perfect, but one thing was clear. Dad was making a real effort, and that effort was reshaping our family. Trust had been broken, but it was being rebuilt, and for the first time, I could honestly say I felt safe in the knowledge that our family might just be okay. It was messy, emotional, and difficult, but it was real. And sometimes, that's the kind of holiday miracle that matters most.